Hello and welcome to At the Redline podcast. My name is Alec Gonzalez. I'm a life coach. Love to work with salespeople, business owners, and clergy. If you know anyone in sales or ministry, I'd love a call. If you like the video, love a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you would. I have Nathan
McCloud.
McCloud. I'm sorry, what a work I didn't get that right. We'll talk more about your business sort of later on. I always like to sort of start at the beginning. What was life like when you were little?
Yeah,
Oh, where'd you grow up? Family of origin, siblings, that kind of thing.
sure. Yeah. So I was born in Michigan, Hillsdale, Michigan.
Okay.
My parents, I don't exactly understand the backstory, but they met in Alaska, got married, had my brother, then moved to Michigan. I don't know what led them that route, but that's what they did, and they had me. We moved to Idaho, North Idaho. That's where I'm still from. When I was really young, I think eight or nine, and I'm one of seven. So
Nice.
there's seven of us. We're all boys, and so it's a family of all boys. So the old movie Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, we were the ones looking for the brides.
Nice.
Yeah, so grew up in a really competitive athletic family. We were all wrestlers, wrestled in the Idaho area. Yeah, and that was
Seven brothers.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Well, six brothers, right?
Six, but yeah, so I'm number two of seven.
Number two. So
No.
you were one of the olders.
Yes,
How spread out are the sibs?
good question. Every 2 years,
Nice.
like clockwork. Yeah, I said,
Oh,
yeah.
that's funny.
Ford couldn't have done it better, is what they say.
We in our family we had 5 kids total, and it was a year and a month apart on all of them except the very last
Wow,
one.
a year and a
Yeah.
month. That's
and a
close
month.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we were all in school together, which was awesome.
that's cool. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
really fun.
And my older brother and I are 14 months apart, but I think we're the closest. The rest
Yeah.
of us are pretty much 2 years. You know,
Cool.
now.
All right. Next question is Ark of Faith. What sort of is the story of your journey into, the relationship that you have with Jesus these days?
Yeah, that's a great question. You mentioned arc of a story, like many stories, it has many arcs. I grew up in a Christian household, so my mom and dad heavily involved in church. Went to church on Sunday, was Sunday school kid, the whole nine. I married my wife, who I met when I was in third grade, and she was in second grade.
Get
At-
out of town.
Yeah, met her at church, and then decided to marry her about 12 years after that, something like that. So
How fun is that?
we got married young, yeah. And now we have 4 kids of our own, which is great.
How old were you guys when you got
I had just turned 20, and she had just turned 19.
nice?
Yeah,
That's about the same age as me and my wife.
yeah.
I was 22 and she was 20.
Mm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
And then 4 kids?
4 kids, yep.
Just 2 more.
No, I think we're going to be done at 4 unless the Lord
What?
changes some things. 4 is plenty. That's
Man.
we've got
5
4.
is the number of atonement, and 7 is the number of perfection. I don't know why you'd want to stop before 5.
Well, 4 is the number of arms that we both have, so that's the reason we're going to stop at 4. That's my theory, at
That's
least.
a good answer. I like it. All right.
Yeah, but the faith journey has been an interesting one. It's been a journey that I've gone on with my wife, particularly over the last 5 years. Is I say one of those arcs.
Mm-hmm.
My home church, which is in North Idaho, Living Hope Church, we did a replant. I think about 3 years ago now, and so I was part of that leadership replanting team.
What's a replant? I never heard that term.
Yeah, so a replant is it can take a lot of shapes, but in the case of Living Hope Church, it was formerly Prairie Avenue Community Church, and that was planted out of Alaska. I'm going to probably mess up the timeline, but about 50 years ago.
Okay.
And so Ted Hoyt planted the church, and then he passed the church down to his son, who ran the church for I think about 10 years, and then he stepped down and didn't want to do the ministry anymore. And there's backstories there, but that's neither here nor there for right now. But basically, there was a group of people that have something like a congregation, and we don't really know what to do about that. And we had an eldership team, and everybody had a different vision of the way they wanted to take the church, and the founder wasn't part of the church anymore. And so we got some really good apostolic discipleship that helped us do a replant.
Oh,
We
cool.
started a brand new church. Everything was brand new about the church, except it was in the same building. as before, and
Interesting.
so that was
What a cool idea. I'd
yeah.
never even heard of that. As a coach of pastors, I mean that's definitely something I'd want to hear more about. Was there a sort of a seminal book or a guy that teaches this sort of, I kept thinking rebranding when you were
Mm,
talking. I was like, in business terms we'd call that rebranding, but
yeah.
I love the concept of, yeah, there's a congregation but the leader is like over here and
Hmm.
everybody has different visions. What an
Yeah.
interesting thing for a church to
So
consider.
the group of churches that we're a part of is the New Frontiers movement of churches out of England,
Mm,
and the United States, I guess North America chapter of that is called Confluence. So we're very blessed to have apostolic leaders throughout the
yeah.
country, and one of the apostolic leaders lives near Seattle.
Mm,
And so he's helped a couple churches go through this. And it's challenging, right? Because you have a founding pastor who's no longer in the picture.
right.
You have different elders. You don't know what route to go. So the
Yeah.
process was all the elders, they all laid down their titles as elders, and we all just kind of became folks, sort of like in Acts 2. Like, well, let's pray in an upper room and see what happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that apostolic guidance was invaluable. And since the replant, the church is completely new. There are some people who were a part of the original church that are still a part of the church, but I would say it's probably 75 to 80%
Mm.
totally new people,
Oh, cool.
and it's growing. And yeah, it's a pretty cool story
Oh,
there.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I'd never heard anything like that. Well, our church just went through a big reshuffle, so part of what you're talking about sounds vaguely familiar.
yeah,
But I don't want to get. Okay, so Arc of Faith. You obviously raised as a Christian as a young child. Somewhere along the line, I'll bet you prayed a prayer. But when would you say that your faith became like solidly, I'm a Jesus centered person
yeah.
and he's the Lord of my life and I'm trying to follow him as best I can. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuanced for all of us, but
Sure.
yeah, what's your
Yeah, so my story, my arc, I never had the I don't believe in Jesus
how cool.
part of my story, but I think the chapters, if you will, the Old and New Testament of my story would be growing up in a pretty limited understanding of who Jesus is and what his message was. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I knew all the Sunday school answers. I knew
Mm-hmm.
all the stories,
Right.
right? Um, but you transition into young adulthood, and I got married just about as early as possible. Um, you look back at your life and you realize it's a lot of performance. It's a lot of
Man.
trying to achieve a certain level of goodness, if you will.
Yeah.
And so my relationship with the Lord, if you even really want to call it a relationship, was um, how good of a job I was at or how good of a job I was doing at, you know, following the rules,
Yeah.
dotting the I's, crossing the T's.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, yeah, and so
Don't get wrong.
yeah, and I measured myself against the right things and the wrong things. I was really taking kind of an atheist worldview towards my Christian faith, if you want to say it that
Interesting.
way.
Yeah.
And so that was what I would call the Old Testament chapter of my life. And I would say about 5 to 6 years ago is I was just going through some challenges in my marriage and challenges with life and challenges with businesses. All the challenges tend to kind of line up, it seems like. But you have sort of at least for me, I come to Jesus moment where I guess the realization happened where I am really don't have much power in and of my own strength. And I need to just rely on Jesus for literally everything.
Really
And I
cool.
know you, and you hear that preached and you go, yeah, 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 but like not with this or not with that.
Yeah.
It took a while for me to just be beaten down enough to go, okay, God,
Yeah.
it's all yours. My marriage is yours. My kids are yours. My
Nice.
business is yours. And then that journey's been about 5 or 6 years of really just trying to be a good steward of whatever the Lord puts in front of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is the New
That's
Testament.
cool. I was reading in the Old Testament, um, was Samuel, First Samuel, not too far, like chapter 6 or something like that, where they go into battle and they take the Ark of the Covenant into battle and they lose the battle and they lose the Ark of the Covenant.
Mm.
And now,
Well, in Samuel, they do lose the covenant. The
yeah,
Philistines take it, and
but
then wherever it goes, the
yeah,
Philistines all get kind of plagued
yeah,
wherever the
right.
ark
That's the
goes.
story that I was reading. But
Yeah.
there's a spot in what I was just reading, and I'm not sure whether it was the Samuel section or it was the Jeremiah section, but he says that the foe that you were facing, it might have said army or enemy or something like that. The enemy that you were facing was too strong for you.
Mm.
And I remember thinking that's interesting, language that the enemy that we face is too strong for us. It's we can't that was the term I came up with.
Mm.
We can't self uh, save. We can't save ourselves.
Yeah.
We can't self rescue. That's a
Sure.
term. There's no such thing as self rescue from the human condition.
Right. Yeah.
But we need to figure that out at some point.
Yeah.
That there's no such thing as self rescue when it comes to our broken condition. We're just it's funny, the Alcoholics Anonymous thing, they've sort of figured it out, like I'm lost without a redeemer. But no, I was just thinking about that earlier today.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, well that's great. And how's that played out over the last 5 years? What's the sort of arc of that little journey?
Yeah. Well, kind of back on the theme of just trying to be a good steward of what the Lord puts in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
He's presented me with a couple of opportunities that I've said no to and a couple of opportunities that I've said yes to. And so I did have an opportunity to become an elder of the new church. And that was an opportunity that I put on hold, at least for the time being, focusing on discipling my kids as much as I can. I am part of our preaching team. So I preach on Sundays about once every month, once every 6 weeks,
Cool.
maybe.
Nice.
So that's been a fun adventure. And then another fun adventure has been my own podcast. And so in the business world, I had built some YouTube channels that taught people about real estate and gained some traction, gained some followers, and sold some product that way. But it was the end of 2024 when the Lord kind of gave me this vision about me building a castle made out of sand. And he what I felt like he spoke to me was, you have this love for video content and what I do on YouTube and Spotify and these things. But you're building your own castle. I want you to build my kingdom. And so I shut down my YouTube channels and started a brand new one called Learn the Bible. And I just use that opportunity to teach people what the book actually says. And so I have a daily podcast that daily every day.
That's fun.
Every day.
This podcast, believe it or not, started with what I called my 3-thought video.
Yeah.
Basically, I've given up on reading one section of the Bible for 4 or 5 chapters. Instead, I read 3 sections of the Scripture, one in the very Old Testament, kind of the Law and the Prophets, and then starting in Psalms and Psalms and Proverbs, I read from there, sort of the middle of the section of the Bible, and then in the New Testament, just start at Matthew and go through. So I'm always reading in 3 different spots in the Scriptures, and I journal. I always pick a verse that kind of sticks out, and so I called it my 3-thought video. It's my 3 thoughts from this morning's reading, and it's usually like 3 to 5 minutes. It's really brief.
Sure.
Just and I love to preach, so it was fun to just take something and roll with it. So that was sort of the beginning, the genesis of my podcast. I'm going in the opposite direction. Wait, you're heading. I'm going more into business, and you're going more into Bible. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really funny. The format because you've never seen my show.
No.
But the format that my show takes is, at least starting this year, we're reading through the Bible in a year, but we don't read it chronologically. We read an Old Testament passage, a New Testament passage, and a Psalms or Proverbs every day.
Cool.
So that's the format we take, and by the end of the year, we'll read the entire Bible and Psalms and Proverbs twice.
Oh, nice.
So I like that format, I guess I could say.
It's good. My, as a pastor, I just spent so much time reading quickly through the Bible that I got wore out trying to engage in large content in reading. Like I really began to really enjoy smaller paragraphs, like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and really just like, and even getting down to one verse that I just like, just really focus on and really think about and really, wonder about and journal. And so that's kind of been my journey. I had a little burnout issue. I have an arc too, but so engaging with smaller sections has been my practice for the better part of 10 years, probably.
That's great.
So yeah, all right. Well, that's cool. I didn't know all that. Yeah. So you have a business we were talking briefly about. Can you talk about the business? Who's a perfect client? What's the problem you solve?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mentioned briefly, or maybe I did or maybe I didn't, I don't remember, but I ran a real estate business.
Yep.
I got my degree in engineering from the University of Idaho, and really didn't like the industry. It just bored me to tears, I guess, after reading 1,000 manuals. And so I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, and so I jumped into house flipping.
Nice.
So I started doing that, I think around 2017.
No.
That sounds about right. And I made that jump, and I did not do well. And for a minute, I was not being a good engineer and not being a good house flipper, so I kind of had to pick a path. And so I picked the entrepreneurial path, and I teamed up with a guy in Spokane who was doing some house flipping and doing some wholesaling. And I owe a lot to him.
What's his name?
Danny O'Bannon.
Okay.
Yeah, I really owe a lot to him, just showing me what it looks like to run a business, showing me the ins and outs of scaling a business, some of the do's and don'ts, and I was kind of his right-hand man as we scaled his business, and we ran a couple of businesses together as well. And one of the businesses we ran, well, I should say this, one of the things I focused on in his business was creating a machine that generated leads for our real estate business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time building that machine.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, people who we collaborated with that did real estate around the country kept asking us if we would do that same machine for their business.
Okay.
And so him and I started a whole separate business called Call to Scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that was specifically for real estate investors, where we took this machine and we applied it to their business and generated leads for their own business in their own hometowns.
Nice.
And so
I might have a bunch of customers for you if you still got that machine.
Well, that's kind of where the story goes. So I guess it would have been maybe a year after COVID or so. My business partner, Danny, stepped out of the business world to deal with some family things. And when that happened, I kind of took over one of the real estate chapters, the commercial real estate chapters that we ran together.
Uh-huh.
And then the rest of the businesses we just kind of let fizzle out. And then, gosh, there's so many curves to the story, but I'll just kind of give you the 20-second overview. I ran that business until it was no longer a good idea to buy commercial real estate. This was the kind of the post-COVID interest rates change in a moment's notice.
Right.
So that got a little too risky for my blood, I guess. And so, I just scaled that down and sold off our assets. And believe it or not, I actually worked in corporate world USA for a couple of years, being like a sales manager type. And then really only the last year and a half I've come back to real estate. And, when you go through so many of those ups and downs, you can get a little burnt out. And so after a couple of years, decided to throw my hat back in the ring in real estate. And so I started doing small single family real estate. I started the machine back up again to generate leads for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Were you doing cold calling, or sending emails or lists? Or
a couple of things, but what we're the best at is cold calling.
Oh, good.
We're really good at building a calling team to generate leads that way.
Okay.
So I started the machine back up, and very shortly, people asked me if I could do it for them again. But this time, they weren't other real estate people. They were people in the trades. They were people that were in mortgages. There were people that were doing all these different verticals, all these different industries, B2C, B2B, all these different things. And I told those early adopters, I don't know if my machine works for your industry. But they're like, we want you to try anyway. And for most of the industries that we've I guess, attach this machine to has worked even better than it did
Oh,
in real estate.
wow.
So we're pretty thrilled about that. And so now what I spend most of my time doing is the business called Good Leads. It's a very easy name to remember.
Yep.
They're leads that are good, and we generate leads for all kinds of businesses.
Nice.
And that's
Where
what
do
we
you
do.
get your numbers?
The phone numbers?
Yeah, the information.
Oh, the data?
Data Axle?
No. So there's a little bit of secret sauce in there
Okay.
that I won't give away, but basically there's a lot of multi-billion-dollar companies that make a living acquiring data. Every time you go online and you say accept cookies, the
Yeah.
company's behind those. And so I have a data broker relationship with some of those companies. And so
Okay.
now I have the contact information of everybody in the country,
Yeah.
and I can narrow down who I target by any filter you can
Metric,
imagine. Yeah.
That's it's funny. Something very similar came up. I was at a meetup a while back, and there was a guy talking about a guy who has amazing assets, lead generating guru, and they were all talking about him like he was genius. And I said, well, I'm trying to pull up a list of all the churches, small churches in rural areas on the eastern side of the state of Washington. Every small country church and small rural. And he said, yeah, he can help you. And I said, well, what's his name? And he told me his name. And he said, well, who is this guy? He's a librarian, works at the library. County library.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a downtown library.
Okay.
And they have a deal with Data Axle, which is this big company that has all this. You probably know about Data Axle, yeah. And that you can get all their stuff for free. All you got to do is sign up for a card. So, and it works pretty good. I mean, in different, and I've gotten a couple of different lists for a couple, and myself, obviously, that's worked out relatively well. But
good.
And I love cold calling. Cold calling is, the secret sauce of business. I mean, if you can do that, you can, and I feel like it builds something really special in me that creates
Got to have a bit of a warrior's mindset for sure.
Like, yeah, you can say no. That's okay. Like, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Say no. I don't mind.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The classic sales thing is we like yeses and nos. We hate maybes.
Yeah.
As long as you're not saying maybe.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
I think the feedback that we keep getting from customers is that our whole world is moving towards automation, AI, digital, everything. And so consumers are getting pretty wise to that pretty quick. And they can tell when they're being put into a funnel. They can tell when they're, like, oh, you want my email. Okay. Oh, you want this, so people are getting wise to that. And so when the feedback that my customers are giving me is their potential customers are saying, you guys talked to us. That's why I'm talking to you right now, is because you are an actual human having an actual human conversations with another human. And so I think that we're at the right time in the economy to capitalize on this machine that I happened to build 10 years ago.
That's cool.
But it's working better now.
Nice. Who would be a great customer? What's the problem they're, dealing with that you solve so well?
Yeah. So, my customers are businesses that that need leads to fuel their business. We do really well with the trades. The trades we have a pretty unique package for, where we just book appointments directly on their calendar.
Nice.
The trades love that. Most trade companies are not really set up to nurture leads the same way that maybe like a mortgage broker or a real estate broker would.
Right, yeah.
And so they just like leads, throw them in the garbage. If it's not an appointment on my calendar, I don't care. And so we just have a special offering where we just book appointments right on their calendar, and they really, really like that.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And but we do really well with mortgage brokers. Some of the data relationships that I have allow us to target people that are really, really need what the mortgage brokers are offering, and they didn't even know they existed, the products out there. And so we're doing a really good service for them. So mortgage brokers we do good with.
Working with buy and hold, real estate investors, buy and sell. Yeah.
So when I ramped down the commercial division, I liquidated all of my assets, and so I don't own any properties besides my own property right now.
For the list thing.
Oh, sorry. Could you say the question again? Maybe I misunderstood you.
I know. So part of my story is I tried initially when I was starting the coaching
Mhm.
practice. I wanted to work with pastors,
Yeah.
and they've just been harder to onboard than
Sure.
just about everybody else. And was I had relationships with people in the real estate investor network.
Yeah.
Been to a bunch of networking
Sure.
meetings. Some of my best friends are real estate investors, or they run meetings. Or
Yeah.
I was just telling you about a friend. She runs an investor meeting. My best friend is a wholesaler. My other best friend is they're all investors. Like
Right.
all my friends, because I just went neck deep into that neighborhood and
Yeah.
said I'm a coach for investors,
Mm.
do masterminds and stuff like that. So a lot of my clients, a lot of my friends, a lot of my associates, a lot of the people that have come on the podcast and will continue to come on the podcast are all investors, people that are looking for properties. But they're generally, when they're just getting started, they want to make phone calls.
Sure.
They just want a big long list of 20 people a week that
Yeah.
are like considering either their mortgages being
Yeah.
foreclosed or whatever. I don't even pay attention too much to what the
Sure.
main point is, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you still have those lists? Are you still?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when I'm pitching my services to a potential client, I typically will say I have two different offerings. And the first offering is that we will do all the calling for you and just generate warm leads for you. Here you go.
Goodness.
So that's what we do. But that's not the best fit for everybody, because some people are like, well, I'm not a super well established business yet.
Right.
A good customer for me is somebody who already spends 10 grand a month on Google and is not getting the return they want.
Right.
I'm like, don't invent more money. Just give me half of that money and I'll show you how much better we can do for you. So that's a good client for me. But a lot of people I talk to are like, oh yeah, I got into real estate this last year, or I became a mortgage guy this last year, or I've worked with marketing companies in the past and it didn't really work that well for me. And so they're really shy to want to pay for a big ticket item like us doing all the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a secondary offering that is simply targeted lists with contact information for you.
Nice.
And what we do is, let's say we'll go back to the real estate example. Let's say you want to sell your house for cash, or you've seen some commercials about that or something on the radio, and you're like, what's this all about? And you inherited your grandma's house that happens to be in Spokane here. What do I do? Most people, what they'll do is they'll Google search, how do I sell my house for cash fast, or something like that. When they do that, 20 different websites are going to come up and they're going to click on the prettiest one and they're going to talk to those people, right? Well, what we're able to do with the data aggregation that we have is I'm able to see, let's say Spokane County, for example. I'm able to see everybody in Spokane County who is searching online, I want to sell my house, or anything that shows some sort of intent to sell their house.
Wow.
And because I have everybody's contact information, I can aggregate lists of people who've opted in to having that information shared, and I can give them to people who want to buy houses.
How far up the scale of scalable are you? That question was horrible.
Yeah. So what's the ceiling?
Well, I'm thinking, why aren't you a billionaire right now? That is just monster. It's just so ginormous as far as how big you could scale a company that does what you.
Yeah.
And there's no end to how big you could scale it.
Right.
The value is so incredible, and the result, even if you just gave lists of people to contact, that's
right.
Just amazing.
So the data end of the business, putting the pieces together, like the thing I just told you, that's something that was impossible to do a year ago.
Okay.
And so we've just cracked the code on being able to do that at a high level. And so I've only started offering this to clients in the last month or two. So it's that cutting edge. And then also my story's taken arcs, but there's a reason why I've led my real estate business peter out and I'm all in on this business, because I can see how much this really helps people, and it helps people who are well established, but it also helps people who are just getting started.
Right.
We have a do-it-yourself model and a white glove model, and
right.
And so yeah, I'm all in, and it's time to scale.
Are you the only one selling this service, or you got a a bunch of people selling it?
Well, there are other cold calling services out
No,
there.
I mean in your business.
Oh, in my personal
In
business?
your company, how many people are
Yeah.
on the front line selling?
Yeah, so I'm on the front line selling, and I have one other salesman that's on the
Okay.
front line selling.
And are you trying to build a large team of salespeople? Because this looks like something that you could have 20 people selling this service to thousands of people.
Yeah. Yeah, the constraint is not how fast we can sell it.
Right.
The constraint is how long it takes for me to onboard good callers and train them. And so if I wanted to turn a switch on, I could hire 5 salesmen and say, go sell this, and put everybody on a waiting list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where I'm putting my time and effort in right now is revamping the infrastructure for onboarding the internal mechanism that actually makes it work.
So interesting. I could talk to you for a long time, but yeah, sadly that's not gonna. One of the things we talked about earlier is I really want to create a little bit of content around the selling process.
Yeah.
What in sales inspires you? What in sales do you think most salespeople out there are struggling with? What's a subject in the sales framework that you say, A, I figured it out, B, I struggle with it all the time, or C, we should just talk about it because it's fun to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a very important subject. And I've seen my clients all have to make sales because I'm selling them leads and they have to do something with it.
Right.
And if they don't do the right things with those leads, they don't make a lot of money. But if they do the right things, they make a lot of money. So
Right.
I have to be intimately familiar with the sales tactics and processes that are working really well right now. And some of them are as old as time, and some of them are not as old as time. I think if you're new in sales or frustrated in sales, probably the best piece of advice that I could give is I'll give 2 pieces of advice because they're both very important. One is setting proper expectations in a sales call. And so, like if I told you, "Hey, let's run a race," or let's go on a run," you say, "Sounds good," and we start running. Well, you don't know if this run is going to be 100 meters or 100 miles. So, like, how prepared am I going to be for this?
Right.
So if I'm engaging somebody in a sales call, I think it's really important at the beginning to set the expectations of what's going to happen in the call. And so that allows them to go, okay, I know what to expect throughout this call, and I'm not waiting for these weird left turns, throughout the call. So setting proper expectation up front.
Let me ask you to clarify what that looks like. I mean, let's say you call a business and you want to sell them on yours. What does that practically look like for you when you're setting expectations for the phone call?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what I'm thinking, but
yeah. So typically when I call somebody who's interested in good leads, I will say, "Hey, this is the way these calls go when they go really well. I'll ask you what you're doing right now to grow your business, and then I'm going to tell you what we do to help people grow their business, and then you get to decide whether that's a good fit for you, and we can continue the conversation. And if it's not a good fit for you, no worries at all. I've got some other people to call today." And so I set that expectation right up front so that it helps them to know where we're going, but it also puts them in the driver's seat to know I have an off ramp here if I feel like this is not a good fit for me.
Have you ever thought of ways that you could improve that, which would give you better status, or like I'll be the first to tell you if this isn't a good fit, or some way of languaging it so that it makes it more than just, okay, this is where we're going, this is the decision you'll be able to make.
Yeah. In my particular, and you're not wrong in that there's a million things to test, right? And because my product is evolving, I'm always evolving with the product that's evolving. I would say this though, the crux of what we do and my biggest selling point when I get somebody on the phone, because all the leads that I get, that I call, I have a caller calling those people. And so I'll typically say, "Hey, you know how we called you and asked you if you wanted leads? Yeah, we do the same thing, but for your business and your potential clients." And so having a conversation is like my biggest selling point. So we do this with your clients. We're not just putting an algorithm together and shooting names over to you. We're having a human conversation with another human on your behalf, and then you get to continue that conversation. So for me, when I'm closing them, it's important for me to maintain this conversational dialogue, like we're just talking about our businesses. And I talk to you the same way I would talk to you if we were having coffee. They need to feel that, because that's the whole like essence of our service.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Cool. That's awesome. All right. I guess contact information. Generally what I do is I put my, At the Redline podcast on top, and your name and phone number for people to call or text. Is there a better way for someone to get a hold of you than phone or text?
Yeah, phone or text is just fine. I'll give you my business line too. Another thing I was going to share with you, and you can check this out, or your listeners can check this out, whatever, but on my website, goodleads.biz, B-I-Z, there's a whole tab that has free sales training on there on how to close. It's kind of geared towards on-site appointments, like going on site, but how to do that at a high level.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's probably 30 to 40 minutes worth of actual training content.
Can you give a couple of examples of, what's on there, things that people are really enjoying?
Yeah, a couple things. And some of these things are surprising. When you're being taught how to show up to an appointment, obviously a teacher would say never show up late, right? Okay. But I say too, never show up early. Always show up on time. Because if you show up early, you're communicating something to the potential buyer in this case. And what you're communicating is, I'm not that busy. I don't got anywhere to be.
Yeah.
But you don't want to communicate that to the potential buyer. You want, or seller, however it is you're selling your service.
That's so
you want to communicate to them that I've got things to do. And if you're not ready for me when I show up, then I got other people to talk to.
Yeah.
Another one, and probably my favorite thing that we learned throughout is I call it yes momentum. And so I'm sure you've seen this before, but for your listeners, if you're in a sales call, the first time you ask the potential customer for them to say yes should not be when you're pitching your service. Right? You should collect yeses along the way. And there's even ways, in my training outlines this, but there's even ways to frame the questions we ask to where your response is yes. Whereas I could have your response be no if I framed it differently, but I don't want to collect no's. I want to collect yeses. And so throughout the digging in the initial part of the conversation is we always want to revert it back to a question, and we want to revert it back to a question that you can say yes to. So that when I finally say, hey, will you be my customer? This is like the 7th or 8th yes that you get to say, so much easier than if this is the first time I'm asking you to say yes.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, well, thanks for coming to my podcast, Nathan. Nathan McCloud. Good Leads.
Goodleads.biz. B-I-Z.
Nice.
B-I-Z. Yeah.
Out coaching the Redline. Love it if you know someone that's a salesperson or a ministry leader. Give me a call, 509-999-3305. Text is always. Thanks. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.